The comm unit died at 03:47 hours. Commander Marcus Thornfield registered the silence like a blade between his ribs. One moment, the tactical frequency carried the steady rhythm of his Luna's breathing, the professional cadence of a soldier on patrol. The next, nothing. Just the empty hiss of dead air and the howl of wind through Silver Pine Mountains. His hand moved to the backup channel before conscious thought caught up. Training. 25 years of it. The kind that turns reflex into religion. Luna 6, this is Alpha Actual. Confirm status. Over. Static answered. The kind that crawls under your skin and sets up camp in your nightmares. Marcus stood in the command center, surrounded by glowing tactical displays that suddenly felt like worthless toys. The holographic terrain map showed Luna Captain Serafina Ashwood's last known position. Patrol route Delta 7. A routine intelligence sweep through the eastern perimeter. Routine. The word tasted like ash. His wolf, Ash, surged against the cage of his ribs, not with aggression, with something worse, terror. The mate bond that connected him to Sarah, that invisible thread that had hummed with life for 3 years, went taut. Then it screamed. Not silent, not severed, it screamed. Marcus had carried wounded warriors out of kill zones, had felt bullets tear through flesh, had watched good soldiers take their last breaths in his arms. None of it prepared him for this. The bond didn't break. It was being shredded, slowly, deliberately, like something was taking a blade to it, one fiber at a time, making sure he felt every cut. He gripped the edge of the tactical table. The metal groaned under his fingers. "Sir?" The voice came from his left. Gamma Commander Helena Voss, call sign Valkyrie. Her tone carried the careful neutrality of a soldier watching her commanding officer stand on the edge of a cliff. "QRF is spinning up. 6 minutes to wheels up. Quick reaction force. The emergency response team. 6 minutes." Sarah had been dark for 4. Every second was a compound fracture in the mate bond. Every heartbeat without her voice felt like drowning. "Get Beta Frost on comms," Marcus said. His voice came out level, professional. The Alpha mask sliding into place even as ash tore at his insides. "I want his patrol route overlaid with Sarah's last known position. Now." Helena moved with the efficiency of a career soldier. Her fingers danced across the holographic interface. The map shifted, layers of data cascading into view. Blue markers for friendly positions, red for potential threats, and there, a single gold marker. Sarah. "Beta Frost's patrol route intersects Luna's position at grid Charlie 7, Helena said. He was scheduled to pass through that sector at 0300 hours, 47 minutes ago. "Get him on the horn," Marcus ordered. The comm crackled. Then a voice filled the room. Deep, steady. The voice of a man Marcus had trusted with his life for 2 decades. "Alpha Actual, this is Frost. Go ahead." Beta Colonel Dorian Frost, Marcus's second in command. The wolf who had stood beside him through the War of 3 Packs, through border skirmishes, through 100 operations that should have killed them both. Brotherhood forged in blood and silver. "Dorian, I need your exact position 47 mics ago. Luna 6 went dark. She was on Delta 7. A pause. Just long enough to feel wrong, just short enough to be nothing. "Alpha, I was en route Charlie at that time, approximately 2 clicks north of her position. Didn't see or hear anything unusual. Comms were clean on my end. 2 kilometers, close enough to respond, far enough to miss everything." The mate bond convulsed. Marcus felt it like a physical blow. Sarah was still alive. But something was happening to her, something that made his wolf howl with rage and his tactical mind race through scenarios, each one worse than the last. "I'm calling dust off," Helena said quietly. Medical evacuation. She was already planning for casualties. Good officer. "Negative. Combat rescue. Full tactical package." Marcus straightened, the Alpha rising through the fog of fear. "If someone took Luna down, they're still in the area. We go in weapons hot." The room shifted. The 2 junior officers manning the comm station sat straighter. This wasn't a rescue anymore. It was a hunt. Marcus pulled his sidearm from its holster, checked the magazine. Silver rounds, standard issue for supernatural threats. He slammed it home with a metallic click that echoed in the sudden silence. "Helena, you have operational command until I return. Rules of engagement are weapons-free. Anyone who isn't packed gets 1 warning, then we put them down." "Sir, protocol says Alpha doesn't deploy on rescue ops." Marcus looked at her. Really looked. Helena was 42, career military, a sniper who could put a round through a target's eye at 1,000 meters. She had earned her rank through competence and blood. She also knew him well enough to recognize when protocol was about to become a suggestion. "My Luna is out there," Marcus said softly. "Protocol can go to hell." Helena nodded once. "Yes, sir. Bring her home." The flight to the last known position took 8 minutes. 8 minutes of sitting in the belly of a helicopter, surrounded by his quick reaction force, while the mate bond twisted like barbed wire in his chest. The team was silent, professional. They checked weapons, adjusted night vision, ran through hand signals. They had trained for this, for the moment when theory became reality and someone you loved was bleeding out in hostile territory. The pilot's voice crackled through Marcus's headset. 30 seconds to LZ. Landing zone. The helicopter banked hard. Marcus gripped his rifle, a custom M4 variant modified for supernatural combat. Silver-tipped rounds, blessed iron sights, the kind of hardware that made bureaucrats nervous and soldiers grateful. The helicopter touched down. Rotor wash hammered the trees into submission. Marcus was out before the skid settled, weapon up, scanning sectors. The QRF flowed out behind him. Textbook deployment, overlapping fields of fire. They moved like water, like wolves. The forest was wrong. Marcus had spent 25 years learning to read terrain, to feel when a place held danger. This was different. The Silver Pine Mountains were ancient, old-growth pines that had watched centuries pass. They were never quiet. Birds, insects, the rustle of small prey fleeing larger predators. Always something. Now nothing. The silence pressed against his eardrums like pressure in deep water. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. "Alpha Actual, this is Tracker." Roland Gray's voice. Delta Master Sergeant, 50 years old, Vietnam-era aesthetic, and twice that in tactical wisdom. "I've got boot prints, multiple sets, some scuffed, like someone was dragged." Marcus's blood turned to ice water. "Follow them." They moved through the forest in tactical formation, Roland on point, reading the ground like scripture. 2 soldiers on flanks, weapons trained on the tree line. Marcus in the middle, the mate bond pulling him forward like a compass needle toward true north. The prints led to a clearing. Marcus saw the blood first, dark pools of it soaking into the pine needles. Too much blood, the kind of volume that meant critical injury, catastrophic trauma. His wolf roared. His training kept him moving forward, 1 foot in front of the other, assess the scene, identify threats, secure the area. Then he saw her. Sarah lay in the center of the clearing, not moving. Her patrol uniform was shredded, torn by something with claws, or designed to look that way. Blood painted her skin. Her face was turned away, hair matted with it. Marcus crossed the distance in 3 strides, dropped to his knees beside her. His hands moved with the mechanical precision of battlefield triage. Check airway, check breathing, check circulation. The ABCs that every soldier learned in basic. She was breathing, shallow, rapid, shock setting in. "Medic!" His voice cracked on the word, the first break in the Alpha facade. One of the QRF soldiers rushed forward. Corpsman 3rd class. Good kid. Steady hands. He went to work immediately, checking vitals, starting an IV line, calling out stats in the clipped language of emergency medicine. Marcus forced himself to look at her injuries. Really look. Years of combat experience gave him the vocabulary to understand what he was seeing. The wounds were savage. Deep lacerations across her torso, defensive wounds on her arms. But the pattern was wrong. He had seen beast attacks, seen what happened when a wolf went feral and tore into human flesh. This wasn't that. This was precise. The cuts followed the lines of muscles, nerves, places that would cause maximum pain with minimum lethality. This wasn't the work of an animal. This was torture. "Sir?" Roland crouched beside him. His weathered face was grim. "Found the attack site, 20 meters east. They're scorching. Chemical burns on the trees. And this." He held out a twisted piece of metal. Marcus took it, turned it over in his hands. Recognition hit like a punch to the gut. Claymore detonator, modified for supernatural targets. The kind of hardware you didn't find at your local sporting goods store. The kind that required military training to acquire, to deploy, to use without killing yourself in the process. "This was planned," Marcus said. "Yes, sir." The mate bond suddenly flared. Not pain this time. Connection. Sarah's eyes opened. They were unfocused, pupils blown wide with shock and whatever else was flooding her system. But they found him, locked on his face. Her lips moved. No sound came out. Marcus leaned close. "I'm here. You're safe. We're getting you out." She tried again, this time a whisper, barely audible. 3 words that changed everything. "They're still here." Marcus's head snapped up. His rifle came around in a smooth arc. The QRF reacted instantly. A perfect circle of armed soldiers, weapons trained outward, every angle covered. But the forest remained empty, silent, watching. "Get her to the bird," Marcus ordered. "Now." 2 soldiers moved in. They lifted Sarah with practiced care, the kind you learned carrying wounded under fire, firm but gentle, quick but controlled. They moved toward the landing zone at a tactical pace, fast enough to matter, slow enough to not jostle critical injuries. Marcus covered their withdrawal. His eyes swept the tree line, looking for movement, for the glint of a scope, for anything that would give him a target, something to shoot, something to kill, something to make the rage and fear stop clawing at his insides. Nothing. They reached the helicopter, got Sarah loaded. The corpsman worked on her with focused intensity, starting blood transfusions, monitoring vitals, doing the 1,000 small things that kept traumatized bodies alive long enough to reach real medical care. The pilot looked back at Marcus. "Sir, we need to go, now." Marcus keyed his radio. "All units collapsed to LZ, we're Oscar Mike." On the move. They lifted off as the last soldier jumped aboard. The forest fell away beneath them. From the air, Marcus could see the clearing, the blood, the attack site, all of it shrinking into the massive darkness of Silver Pine Mountains. Someone had taken his Luna, had hurt her, had left her bleeding in the woods like bait, and whoever they were, they had military training, access to classified equipment, knowledge of patrol routes and communication schedules. The enemy wasn't out there in the forest. The enemy was inside his pack. The medical bay smelled like antiseptic and desperation. Marcus stood outside the operating room, watching through the observation window as pack surgeons worked on Sarah. He had been standing there for 6 hours. Ash paced inside his mind, a caged animal with nowhere to direct its fury. The mate bond was stable now, weak but present, like a guttering candle flame. Every few minutes, Marcus would check it, make sure it was still there, still burning, still connecting him to the woman on the other side of that glass. Footsteps approached from behind. Marcus didn't turn. He knew the gait, the rhythm. Dorian had walked beside him for 20 years. You learned a man's footsteps the way you learned his face. "Status?" Dorian asked. "Stable. Critical, but stable. Surgeons say she'll make it." Marcus's voice was flat, empty, the tone you used when the alternative was screaming. "Physical trauma is extensive, but it's not what has them concerned." "What then?" Marcus finally looked at his beta. Dorian was 44, career military like Marcus. They had been through the academy together, had earned their call signs in the same firefight. Frost, they called him. Because nothing rattled him. He was solid, dependable, the kind of second-in-command who made an alpha look good because you knew he had your back. Right now, Marcus was looking at him differently, through the lens of suspicion, because someone with training had done this, someone with access, someone who knew Sarah's schedule. "Her wolf is gone," Marcus said. "Not retreated, gone. The surgeons can't find any trace of Ember's presence. It's like the connection was severed at the root." Dorian's face went still. "That's not possible. Wolves don't just vanish. They're part of us. Cutting that bond would be like cutting out someone's soul." Possible or not, it happened. Which means someone has access to a weapon or technique we don't understand. Something that can reach inside a person and rip out the most fundamental part of their being. Silence settled between them, heavy, loaded with implications. "We need to convene the council," Dorian said finally. "If there's a threat we don't understand, we need all available intelligence." Marcus nodded slowly. "Agreed. But until we know more, this stays compartmentalized. Only senior staff. Someone planned this operation, Dorian. Someone who knew exactly where Sarah would be and when. That's a small list of people." "You think we have a traitor?" It wasn't a question. Dorian had been in this game long enough to read between lines. "I think we have someone who's willing to use military-grade hardware on our Luna. That narrows the suspect pool considerably." Dorian met his eyes, held them. "You're including me on that list." Marcus wanted to say no, wanted to defend his beta, his brother in all but blood, but he had built his career on tactical honesty, on facing hard truths even when they cut. Everyone's on the list until they're not. For a moment, something flickered across Dorian's face, too fast to identify. Then it was gone, replaced by the professional mask Marcus knew so well. "Understood, sir. I'll coordinate security protocols. No one gets near Luna without clearance. And I'll pull comm logs from the night of the attack, see if anything was missed. Do that. Dorian turned to leave, then paused. Marcus, we'll find who did this. And when we do, they'll wish they had never been born. I'm counting on it. The beta walked away. His footsteps faded down the corridor. Marcus returned his attention to the observation window, to Sarah, pale and broken under surgical lights. The tactical part of his brain was already working, building threat matrices, analyzing evidence. The forensic details were damning. Claymore detonators didn't grow on trees. They came from military stockpiles, which meant procurement, supply chains, paper trails. Someone in his pack had access to that hardware, had signed it out, had carried it into the woods and used it against his mate. The question wasn't if he would find them. The question was what he would do when he did, because the alpha in him wanted justice, due process, military tribunal, all the proper procedures that separated civilization from chaos. But the wolf in him wanted blood. The council room sat deep in the pack compound, a circular chamber with a table carved from a single massive oak. The wood was old, scarred by centuries of wolf claws and harder decisions. Around it sat the leadership of Pack Ashwood, the wolves who had earned their positions through service, through sacrifice, through the kind of competence that kept 200 souls alive in a world that wanted them dead. Marcus stood at the head of the table. Alpha position, the place where all responsibility ultimately landed. He had called this meeting at 0600 hours, 2 hours after Sarah was out of surgery, before exhaustion could dull his edge. To his right sat Helena Voss, Gamma Commander, Chief of Security. Her file was impeccable. 20 years of service, sniper, tactical genius. She had pulled him out of more than one bad situation. He trusted her. To his left, Dorian Frost, Beta Colonel, his second in command, the wolf who knew where all the bodies were buried because he had helped bury half of them. Marcus wanted to trust him. Wanted to. The rest of the council filled in around them. Roland Gray, Delta Master Sergeant, Scout Commander, older than all of them and twice as dangerous. Elder Miriam Blackthorne, Pack Historian and Medical Authority. Retired military nurse with a mind like a steel trap. And 3 other senior elders, the wolves who remembered when Pack Ashwood was barely a dozen strong, who had lived through wars Marcus only read about in history books. He let the silence stretch, let them feel the weight of what had happened. Then he spoke. 36 hours ago, someone attacked our Luna using military-grade explosives. They jammed her communications, ambushed her on a classified patrol route, and they used a weapon or technique that severed her connection to her wolf. This was not random. This was not opportunistic. This was a planned operation conducted by someone with training, resources, and intelligence access. He paused. Let that sink in. Watched faces, looking for tells, for the micro-expressions that training could hide but stress revealed. Helena's security brief. She stood, professional, controlled. A tablet appeared in her hands. She swiped through data with practiced efficiency. Perimeter analysis shows a single point of entry and exit. Eastern Sector, Grid Charlie 7. Boot prints match standard issue tactical boots, size 11. That accounts for approximately 40% of our combat personnel. Forensic analysis of the explosive residue confirms composition consistent with our own demo charges, specifically Block C variant, which we use for structural breaching. She looked up from his tablet. Those charges are stored in the armory. Access is restricted to senior staff and demolition specialists. I pulled inventory logs. 8 months ago, a training allocation was signed out for field exercises, 6 charges. Only 4 were expended during training, 2 are unaccounted for. The room went cold. Who signed for that allocation? Marcus asked. He already knew, had reviewed the logs himself 3 times looking for another answer. But there was only one name on the requisition form. Helena's eyes found Dorian. Beta Frost, sir. Every head turned. Dorian sat perfectly still. His face showed nothing. Years of operational experience and political survival had taught him control. But Marcus knew him, could read the subtle tension in his jaw, the way his hands rested flat on the table instead of relaxed in his lap. Dorian. The beta met his eyes, steady, unflinching. I signed for those charges. That's not in dispute. We ran breaching drills that month, standard tactical training. The 2 missing charges were logged as training expenditure, faulty detonators. We followed protocol and disposed of them as per regulations. Can anyone verify that? Roland's voice, gravelly, skeptical in the way of old soldiers who had seen too many lies. My training team, 6 soldiers witnessed the disposal. Get me their names. I'll interview them personally. Marcus kept his tone neutral, professional. This was an investigation, not an interrogation, not yet. Helena, what else? Communications logs show Luna's tactical frequency was jammed using a military-grade scrambler, the kind that requires specialized training to operate. We've cross-referenced personnel files. 15 pack members have the technical expertise. All are being interviewed. Expand that net. Include anyone with signals intelligence background, anyone who spent time in electronic warfare units. I want every wolf with relevant skills accounted for. Yes, sir. Marcus turned his attention to Miriam. The elder historian sat quietly, her weathered hands folded on the table. She was 65, had served as a military nurse during conflicts Marcus had only read about. She had seen horrors, had patched soldiers back together with nothing but skill and stubbornness. If anyone understood what had been done to Sarah, it would be her. Miriam, medical assessment. The old wolf looked up. Her eyes were sharp, clear, the kind of gaze that had seen too much death to be shocked by one more atrocity. Luna Serafina's physical injuries are severe but survivable. Lacerations, contusions, chemical burns consistent with proximity to explosive detonation. But as Commander Thornfield stated, the critical issue is the severance of her wolf bond. I've never seen anything like it in 50 years of practice. She pulled out a leather-bound journal. Old. The kind of thing that belonged in a museum, not a tactical briefing. She opened it carefully. The pages were yellowed with age, covered in flowing script. However, I have read about it. These are the personal journals of elder historian Tobias Blackthorne, my grandfather. He documented supernatural phenomena across 8 decades of pack service. 3 years before his death, he recorded a single incident. A Luna from the Ironwood pack, attacked in circumstances eerily similar to what happened to Serafina. Marcus leaned forward. What happened to her? She survived the physical trauma, but her wolf never returned. She lived for 6 more months. Then one morning, her mate found her dead, no visible cause. The healer said her spirit simply gave up. The words landed like stones in still water, ripples of implication spreading outward. Did your grandfather identify the cause? Helena asked. Miriam turned pages. Her finger traced faded ink. He references something called the Soul Reaver, an entity, or perhaps a weapon. The text is unclear. What is clear is that it feeds on the connection between human and wolf. It doesn't kill directly. It starves, slowly consuming the victim's will to live until there's nothing left. That's a ghost story, one of the other elders said. Marcus thought his name was Thomas. Campfire tales to scare pups. Ghost stories often have roots in truth, Roland said quietly. I've heard similar tales. Different names, same concept, something that hunts wolves by attacking what makes us supernatural, our connection to the animal within. Marcus processed this, tactical mind sorting through implications. If the Soul Reaver was real, it changed the threat matrix. This wasn't just a traitor with explosives. This was someone who had access to supernatural weapons, someone who understood pack dynamics well enough to know that breaking a Luna didn't require killing her, just taking away her reason to fight. Miriam, I need everything your grandfather wrote about this, every reference, every detail. If this thing exists, I need to know its capabilities, limitations, and how to kill it. I'll compile the research. Helena, expand security protocols. Luna is not to be left unguarded, ever. I want armed sentries outside her medical bay. Cleared personnel only, no exceptions. Understood. Dorian, you're on investigation. Coordinate with Helena. I want interviews, background checks, financial records. Anyone with the skills to pull off this operation gets scrutinized. Check alibis, cross-reference timelines, find me the gaps. The beta nodded. Yes, sir. Marcus straightened. Command posture. The Alpha projecting certainty, even when uncertainty gnawed at his gut. Someone in our pack tried to break my mate. They used our weapons, our intelligence, our trust. That ends now. We are on lockdown until we identify the threat. No one leaves the compound without authorization. All pack members are restricted to essential duties only. This investigation is code word classified. Anyone who discusses it outside this room answers to me personally. He let his eyes travel around the table, meeting each gaze, making sure they understood. We find who did this, we find them fast, and when we do, they will face pack justice. Dismissed. The council filed out in silence. Only Helena remained. She waited until the door closed, until they were alone in the ancient chamber. "You're not sleeping," she said. "It wasn't a question." "Can't. Every time I close my eyes, I see her in that clearing, bleeding out, alone." "She wasn't alone. You found her." "Not fast enough." Marcus's voice cracked. "Just slightly. Just enough." 6 hours, Helena. 6 hours between when she went dark and when we reached her. Anything could have happened in that time. But it didn't. She's alive. She's fighting. That's what matters. Marcus wanted to believe that, wanted to accept the logic. But logic didn't explain the hollow feeling in his chest. The mate bond was there, but it was wrong, like looking at your reflection in broken mirror. You could see yourself, but the pieces didn't quite line up. "I need to see her," he said. "The doctor said she needs rest. I need to see her." Helena studied him for a long moment, then nodded. 10 minutes. Then you're getting 3 hours of sleep. That's an order, Commander." "You don't get to give me orders." "Someone has to, because you're running on fumes and rage, and neither of those will help you think clearly. 3 hours. Then you can go back to being invincible." Marcus almost smiled. "Almost. 3 hours. I'll hold you to it." They walked together through the compound, past training yards where warriors drilled, past administrative offices where the machinery of pack government ground forward, down into the medical wing where the air smelled like disinfectant and every footstep echoed. The guards outside Sarah's room came to attention. Marcus recognized them. Good soldiers, Helena's picks. He nodded acknowledgement and pushed through the door. The room was dim, lit only by the soft glow of medical monitors, their quiet beeping the only sound. Sarah lay in the bed, small and broken under white sheets. IV lines ran into her arms. Bandages covered most of her visible skin. She looked fragile, mortal in a way that wolves weren't supposed to be. Marcus moved to her bedside, carefully, like sudden movement might shatter something. He took her hand. It was cold. He wrapped both of his around it, trying to lend warmth. Her eyes opened, slowly. Drug sleep reluctant to release her. "Marcus." His name was barely a whisper, rough from intubation and trauma. "I'm here. Ember. I can't feel her. I reach and there's nothing, just empty space where she used to be." Tears tracked down her temples, not sobs, just silent streams of grief. Marcus felt his heart crack, felt the Alpha mask slip, just for a moment, just for her. "We're going to find out what happened. We're going to fix this. I promise you, Sarah. I will burn the world down before I let anything else hurt you." She squeezed his hand, weak but deliberate. "Don't burn the world. Just find who did this. Make them answer for it." "That I can do." They stayed like that, connected by touch and fractured bond. No more words needed. Sometimes presence was enough. Sometimes just being there, being real, being solid, was the only medicine that mattered. After 9 minutes, Helena knocked softly. Time was up. Marcus kissed Sarah's forehead, breathed in her scent beneath the antiseptic, committed it to memory like he did before every mission, just in case. "Rest, I'll be back soon." "I know." He left before she could see his control fracture, before she could see the Alpha become just a man who was terrified of losing everything that mattered. In the corridor, Helena waited, professional mask in place, but her eyes were gentle, understanding in the way only another soldier could understand. 3 hours, she reminded him. 3 hours, he agreed, but they both knew he was lying. The surveillance footage played on a loop. Marcus sat in the security office, staring at 6 months of recorded data from the compound's camera network. Helena had pulled the files, every entrance, every exit, every common area, looking for patterns, for anomalies, for the ghost in their machine. It was hour 4 of his mandatory 3-hour rest. The coffee had gone cold in his hand. He drank it anyway. "There," Helena pointed at the screen. "Timestamp puts this 6 months ago, Eastern Armory entrance." The grainy footage showed a figure in tactical gear, face obscured by shadows and the camera angle. They carried a case. Standard military issue, the kind used for demo charges. "Can we ID them?" Marcus asked. "Negative. They knew the camera blind spots, stayed in shadows, deliberate. But they had armory access. That's a short list. 17 people, all senior staff, including both of us." Marcus watched the figure disappear into the armory. Reappear 10 minutes later, case presumably lighter now. They moved with confidence, no hesitation, someone who knew exactly where they were going and why. The timestamp read 0200 hours, middle of the night, when most of the pack slept. Pull duty rosters for that night. I want to know who was off shift, who had opportunity. Helena's fingers flew over the keyboard. Data cascaded across secondary screens, duty assignments, sleep schedules, training rotations. The complex choreography of military life laid bare in spreadsheets and reports. 11 personnel were off duty that night. 3 were confirmed in their quarters. Security logs show room access. 5 were on leave, off compound entirely. That leaves 3 unaccounted for. Names: Delta Sergeant Collins. He was in the training yard, logged a solo workout session. Omega Finn, supply master. No alibi. And Beta Frost. He logged a perimeter walk, solo patrol. Marcus felt his stomach clench. Dorian. Could be coincidence. He does solo patrols regularly. Helps him think, he says. Or it gives him freedom of movement without witnesses. Helena said nothing. They both knew what it meant when evidence started pointing in one direction. Coincidences stacked up until they weren't coincidences anymore, until they were patterns, and patterns told stories. Keep digging. I want financials, communication records, everything. If Dorian is dirty, he'll have made mistakes. Everyone does. And if he's not, then we clear him and move on. But until we do, he's a suspect, same as everyone else. Helena nodded slowly. I'll be discreet. Appreciated. She turned back to the screens. There's something else you should see. She pulled up different footage, different camera. This one showed the sacred grotto where Luna ceremonies took place. It was an old tradition, ancient, the kind that predated written records. When twin moons aligned, Alpha and Luna renewed their bond through ritual bathing. It was private, sacred. No one observed except the couple themselves. The footage showed the grotto entrance, empty, peaceful. Then Helena fast-forwarded. The timestamp jumped ahead, days blurring into hours. There. She froze the image. A figure crouched in the vines at the grotto entrance, partially hidden, installing something small. The resolution wasn't good enough to see details, but Marcus knew what he was looking at. Camera, he said flatly. Micro-surveillance, military-grade wireless transmitter. Someone wanted eyes on the Luna ceremony. How long has it been there? Based on the installation timestamp, 6 months. It's been watching every ceremony since. Marcus felt violation like acid in his throat. Someone had been watching him and Sarah, watching their most intimate moments, their vulnerability, their connection. Can we trace the signal? Find where it was transmitting to? Already tried. Signal is encrypted, bounced through multiple relays, professional-level operation. Whoever set this up knew what they were doing. Pull the device, get forensics on it. Maybe they left prints, DNA, something. Roland's team already recovered it. It's in analysis now. Marcus stood, paced. The security office suddenly felt too small, too confining. His wolf raged, wanted out, wanted to hunt, wanted to find whoever had violated his mate and tear them apart with bare hands. "Sir," Helena's voice cut through the red fog, "you need to see this." She had pulled up this camera footage, enhanced it, zoomed in on the figure installing the device. The resolution was still poor. But there, reflected in the pool water, just for a second, a face. Dorian. Marcus stared at the screen, at his beta, his brother, the wolf he had trusted with his life, his pack, his mate. The wolf who had apparently been spying on them for 6 months. "What do you want to do?" Helena asked quietly. Marcus made himself think, forced the alpha mask back into place, pushed down rage and betrayal and the sick feeling of having been played. "Nothing. Yet. We don't move until we have everything. If Dorian is running this operation, he'll have contingencies. Fail-safes. We hit him too early, we lose our chance. He's smart. He'll know we're looking. Then we give him something else to look at. Stage the investigation. Make it seem like we're chasing other leads. Keep him comfortable, confident. People make mistakes when they think they're winning." Helena studied him. "That's cold, Marcus." "That's command. We play this smart or we lose. And I'm not losing my pack to a traitor." She nodded. "I'll coordinate with Roland. Make sure our story stays consistent." "Do it. And Helena." He met her eyes, held them. "Thank you for having my back." "Always, sir. That's what gammas are for." She left. The door closed behind her with a soft click. Marcus stood alone in the security office, surrounded by glowing screens and damning evidence. His beta had betrayed him, had hurt his mate, had violated their sacred bond. And when Marcus was done gathering evidence, when he had every piece of proof locked down tight, he was going to make Dorian Frost answer for it. But first, he had a ceremony to attend, because in 72 hours, the twin moons would align, and if he and Sarah didn't complete the bonding ritual, the mate bond would sever permanently. Everything that connected them, everything that made them partners in soul and spirit, would die. That wasn't happening. Not while Marcus still drew breath. He had fought wars, had led soldiers through hell, had stood against impossible odds and walked away. This was just one more battle, one more mission, and he never failed a mission. Not when it mattered. Not when it was her. The war room smelled like coffee, tension, and the particular breed of exhaustion that came from hunting ghosts in your own ranks. Marcus stood at the tactical table, surrounded by evidence that told a story he didn't want to believe. Helena had worked through the night. So had Roland. Their combined efforts produced a picture that was damning in its clarity. Dorian Frost, his beta of 20 years, was either a traitor or the unluckiest wolf alive. The holographic display showed financial records, communication logs, movement patterns, everything that defined a person's digital footprint in the modern age, and all of it pointed toward one conclusion. Helena stepped up to the table. Her eyes were red-rimmed from lack of sleep, but her voice remained steady. Professional. The kind of calm that came from years of delivering bad news to people who didn't want to hear it. Financial analysis shows 3 anomalies in Beta Frost's accounts over the past 6 months. Wire transfers from offshore sources. Total value, approximately $50,000. The money came in through multiple dummy corporations, standard money laundering protocols. Marcus studied the data, followed the money trail with eyes that had learned to read intelligence reports before most wolves learned to shift. Sources? Unknown. The corporations are shells, registered in countries with non-disclosure banking laws. We'd need federal warrants to dig deeper, and that would tip our hand. What about communication records? Roland moved forward. The old scout carried a tablet that looked almost comical in his weathered hands, but his fingers navigated the interface with surprising dexterity. Dorian's been using encrypted messaging apps, military-grade encryption, the kind that requires specialized software to crack. We managed to pull metadata, but the actual message content is locked down tight. Who is he talking to? That's where it gets interesting. Most of his contacts are legitimate, pack members, other alphas, standard operational traffic. But there's one number that appears regularly, always late at night, always brief conversations, never more than a few minutes. Can we trace it? Burner phone, changes every week. Whoever's on the other end knows operational security. Marcus felt the pieces fitting together. Financial transfers, encrypted communications, camera surveillance, missing explosives. Each element alone could be explained. Coincidence, mistake, bad luck. But together they formed a pattern, and patterns didn't lie. What about the night of the attack? He asked. Dorian's alibi was a solo perimeter walk. Can we verify that? Helena pulled up more data. Security logs, gate access records, the digital paper trail that tracked every movement through the compound. Gate logs show he left through the eastern checkpoint at 0230 hours, logged as routine patrol. He should have returned by 0400. But there's a gap. He didn't check back in until 0445. That's 45 minutes unaccounted for. 45 minutes. More than enough time to reach Sarah's position. Set the trap. Wait for the explosion. Then circle back and play the hero finding her broken body. Marcus's wolf snarled. Ash wanted blood, wanted to tear through the compound until he found Dorian and ripped out his throat. The human part of Marcus wanted answers first, wanted to understand why. What could possibly drive a wolf to betray his alpha, his pack, his oath? We need to bring him in, Helena said, quietly, before he realizes we're onto him. No. Marcus's voice was flat, final. Not yet. We're missing something. Motivation. Dorian's not stupid. He's not the type to flip for money. There's something else driving this. Then what do you want to do? Marcus looked at the evidence. At 20 years of friendship reduced to suspicious data points. At trust turned into tactical liability. We watch him, document everything, give him enough rope to either hang himself or prove his innocence. But we do it smart. No direct confrontation until we have the full picture. And if he makes another move against Luna? Roland asked. The question held an edge. The old wolf wasn't interested in collecting evidence. He wanted justice, the quick, violent kind. Then we put him down. But until then, we play this by the book. I won't destroy a wolf's life based on circumstantial evidence, not even for this. Helena nodded slowly. She understood. Command meant making impossible choices, balancing justice against certainty, trust against survival. I'll set up surveillance, passive monitoring. He won't know we're watching. Do it. And Helena. Marcus met her eyes. If I'm wrong about this, if Dorian is innocent and we're wasting time chasing shadows while the real threat operates freely, that's on me. You follow orders. Clear? Crystal, sir. She left to coordinate the surveillance operation. Roland lingered. The old scout had something on his mind. Marcus could read it in the set of his shoulders, the way he shifted his weight, preparing to speak truths that might not be welcome. Say it, Marcus said. You're too close to this. Dorian's your friend, your brother. That's clouding your judgment. My judgment is fine. Is it? Because from where I stand, you're bending over backward to give him the benefit of the doubt. If this was any other wolf, you'd have already brought them in for questioning. Marcus wanted to argue, wanted to defend his decision with tactical reasoning and procedural justification. But Roland was right. 20 years of friendship created blind spots, made you want to believe the best even when evidence pointed toward the worst. What would you do? He asked. Arrest him, interrogate him, break him down until he either confesses or proves his innocence, quick and clean, before he can do more damage. And if he's innocent? If we destroy his reputation, his career, his life, based on circumstantial evidence? Then we make it right. But better to be wrong and safe than right and dead. The words hung between them. Cold logic versus loyalty. Security versus justice. The eternal balance that kept commanders awake at night. I'll consider it, Marcus said. Roland snorted. You do that. Meanwhile, I'll keep my team ready. When this goes sideways, and it will, somebody's going to need to clean up the mess. The old wolf walked out. His footsteps echoed down the corridor, fading into the ambient noise of the compound, leaving Marcus alone with his doubts and the evidence that refused to form a complete picture. He turned his attention back to the tactical display, to the money trails and communication logs, to the life of a wolf he thought he knew. And somewhere in the data, hidden in the noise, was the truth. He just had to find it before everything fell apart. Sarah woke to the sound of machines and the absence of everything that made her whole. The medical bay was quiet, sterile, the kind of place where wounded soldiers went to heal or die, depending on which way the scales tipped. She had been here for 3 days, long enough for the physical wounds to start closing, long enough to realize that some wounds went deeper than flesh. Ember was gone, not sleeping, not hiding, gone. The space where her wolf should be felt like a hole in her chest, like someone had reached inside and scooped out her soul, leaving nothing but empty darkness. Sarah had been a soldier before she was a Luna, had served in military intelligence, psychological operations, the kind of work that required you to get inside people's heads and pull the right strings to make them dance. She knew trauma, knew how the mind protected itself by building walls around pain. This wasn't that. This was amputation, spiritual dismemberment. And the worst part was knowing it had been done deliberately. Someone had looked at her and decided that the best way to hurt her, to break her, was to cut away the most fundamental part of her being. The door opened. Miriam entered carrying a leather satchel and the particular kind of determination that elderly wolves brought to impossible tasks. She settled into the chair beside the bed with the careful movements of someone whose bones remembered too many winters. "How are you feeling?" the elder asked. "Like I've been run over by a tactical vehicle, then backed up over for good measure." Sarah's voice was rough, damaged from intubation and screaming. "Physically, I'll heal. Everything else is a question mark." Miriam opened the satchel, pulled out the ancient journal Marcus had mentioned. The pages were yellow with age, covered in flowing script that belonged to an era before computers, before the modern world had sanitized everything with digital efficiency. "I've been researching your condition. What was done to you has precedent. Rare, but documented." The Soul Reaver. Yes, my grandfather recorded 3 incidents over his lifetime. Each one involved a Luna who lost her wolf. 2 of them died within months. The 3rd survived, but she was never the same, broken in ways that couldn't be fixed. Sarah absorbed this. Tactical assessment of her own survival odds. The numbers weren't good. What's different about me? Why am I still alive when others died? That's what I've been trying to understand. My grandfather's notes suggest the Soul Reaver feeds on despair, on hopelessness. It doesn't just sever the wolf bond. It amplifies the victim's darkest thoughts until they consume everything. The survivors who died, they gave up. Let the darkness win. "And you think I'm not giving up?" Miriam's eyes were sharp, knowing. Are you? Sarah wanted to say no, wanted to project the confidence and strength expected of a Luna. But Miriam was asking for truth, not performance, and truth was harder. I don't know. Every time I reach for Ember and find nothing, it feels like drowning. Like I'm underwater and I can't remember which way is up. The only thing keeping me going is Marcus, the bond. It's damaged, but it's still there, still connecting us. Good. Hold on to that, because I believe the bond is your lifeline. As long as it remains intact, you have an anchor, something the Soul Reaver can't touch. What is it? The Soul Reaver? Is it a creature, a weapon, some kind of dark magic? Miriam turned pages. Her finger traced faded illustrations, drawings of a figure that was both beautiful and terrible, part woman, part shadow, part something that defied simple description. According to my grandfather's research, it's all of those things. The Soul Reaver was created 300 years ago by an alpha named Aldrich. He was experimenting with forbidden magic, trying to create weapons that could break rival packs without direct confrontation. Psychological warfare taken to its extreme. He used his own Luna as the test subject, Sarah said, reading between the lines, understanding the implication. Yes, her name was Morgana. She was powerful, gifted with healing abilities that made her invaluable to her pack. Aldrich bound her soul into the entity, turned her into a weapon that fed on other Lunas. It was meant to be controllable, a tool he could deploy and recall at will. But it got loose. Worse, it became sentient. Morgana's consciousness trapped inside this twisted form. She's been hunting for 3 centuries, feeding on broken wolves, building power. And the more she feeds, the stronger she becomes. Sarah felt cold, not from the temperature, from the implications. You're saying I was attacked by something that's 300 years old, something that's been killing Lunas for generations. I'm saying you survived something that's 300 years old. That makes you unique, and potentially the key to stopping it. How? I can't even find my own wolf. How am I supposed to fight an ancient supernatural entity? Miriam closed the journal, leaned forward. Her weathered hands found Sarah's. The touch was warm, grounding. You survived the initial attack. Your spirit didn't break. That resilience is rare. Most victims succumb within days. You've lasted 3 days and you're still fighting, still asking questions, still trying to understand. That strength is what we need. What do you want me to do? Recover your memories. You said you heard a voice before the attack. That voice is the key. Someone summoned the Soul Reaver. Someone directed it to you. If we can identify them, we can find the entity. And if we can find it, perhaps we can destroy it. Memory recovery. You're talking about reliving the attack. Yes, I know it's asking a lot, but we need information, and you're the only source we have. Sarah wanted to refuse, wanted to keep those memories buried where they couldn't hurt her. But she had been a soldier too long, knew that sometimes the mission required you to walk back into hell because that's where the intelligence was. When do we start? Now, if you're willing. I've prepared a meditation technique, ancient Luna magic that allows you to revisit memories with clarity. It won't be easy. The mind protects itself for good reason. But if you can push through the pain, you might find answers. Sarah nodded. Let's do it. Miriam began to chant, low, rhythmic, words in a language that predated modern pack dialects. The air in the medical bay seemed to thicken, reality taking on a dreamlike quality. Sarah felt herself sinking, not into sleep but into memory, into the night that had shattered her world. She was back in the forest, Patrol Route Delta 7, the comm unit in her ear carrying steady traffic. Everything normal, everything routine, then the static. The world going silent in that particular way that meant electronic warfare. Someone jamming communications, professional-level operation, the kind that required training and equipment. Sarah's tactical mind kicked in. She dropped to a crouch, weapon up, scanning sectors, looking for threats. But the forest was empty, just trees and shadows and the creeping certainty that something was very wrong. Then the voice. It came from everywhere and nowhere, a whisper that bypassed her ears and spoke directly into her mind. Luna Serafina, so strong, so capable, but strength is just another kind of weakness when you rely on it too much. She spun, trying to locate the source, but there was nothing. Just voice without body, threat without form. Who are you? She demanded. Someone who understands what you are, what you could become if you weren't shackled to an alpha who sees you as a prize instead of a partner. The words dug into old wounds, insecurities she thought she'd buried. Before Marcus, before the pack, she had been alone, had fought her way through a world that tried to break her. And some part of her, the part that never fully healed, still wondered if she was valued for her skills or her position. "Show yourself," she commanded. "As you wish." The shadows coalesced, took form. A figure emerged from the darkness between trees, not quite solid, not quite real, but present in a way that made her wolf recoil. Ember, her wolf, strong and sure and always ready to fight, suddenly silent, suddenly afraid. The figure wore the shape of a woman, beautiful in the way ancient things could be beautiful, timeless and terrible. Her eyes were pools of sorrow, her smile was gentle, and everything about her screamed danger. "I am Morgana, once Luna, now something else, and I have been sent to offer you a gift. I don't want anything from you." "You will, when you understand what's been done to you, what your Alpha allows to continue. You're a soldier, Captain Ashwood. You understand chain of command. You understand that orders flow down and responsibility flows up. But in pack hierarchy, Lunas are decorative, ceremonial. You have power, but no authority to use it." The words found purchase, because they were partially true, because Sarah had felt it herself, the frustration of being capable but constrained, of having skills that went unused because her role was defined by tradition, not necessity. "You're lying." "Am I? When was the last time Marcus asked for your tactical assessment? When was the last time you were included in War Council? You're his mate, his Luna, but you're not his equal. Not really." "Stop!" But Morgana didn't stop. The entity moved closer, and with each step, the temperature dropped. The forest itself seemed to recoil. "I can free you, sever the bond, let you become what you were meant to be, a warrior without shackles, a Luna without limitations." "That's not freedom, that's breaking me." "Breaking is just another word for transformation. You'll see. When you wake without your wolf, when you feel the emptiness, you'll understand that I've given you clarity, purpose, and when you're ready, when the pain has taught you what words cannot, you'll thank me." The entity reached out, touched Sarah's chest, right over her heart, right where the wolf bond lived. The pain was immediate, catastrophic, like being ripped apart from the inside. Sarah felt embers scream, felt their connection tear, felt 300 years of trapped rage and sorrow pour into her through that single point of contact. And beneath the pain, beneath the violation, she heard another voice, familiar, male, speaking words that would haunt her forever. "Make sure she survives. I need her broken, not dead." The memory shattered. Sarah came back to herself gasping, sweat-soaked. Miriam's hands on her shoulders, grounding her, pulling her back from the abyss. "Breathe," the elder commanded. "You're safe. You're here. The memory can't hurt you." But it could, and it did, because now Sarah knew. The attack hadn't been random. It had been ordered, directed, and the voice giving that order belonged to someone she knew. Someone in her pack. "Did you hear it?" she asked, voice shaking. The voice at the end, giving the order. Miriam's face was grim. "I heard it. Do you recognize who it was?" Sarah closed her eyes, replayed the memory, the words, the tone, the particular cadence that was unique to each person. And when she placed it, when she finally identified the voice, her blood turned cold. "I need to talk to Marcus, now." The Moongaze Festival was 2 days away. Marcus stood on the training field, watching his wolves prepare. Warriors running drills, scouts coordinating patrol routes. The complex choreography of military readiness playing out under afternoon sun. Everything looked normal, professional. But beneath the surface, tension crackled. Everyone knew something was wrong. Lockdown protocols, restricted movement, whispered rumors about Luna's condition. The pack was on edge, waiting for the other boot to drop. Dorian approached from the east. His uniform was crisp, his bearing relaxed. If he knew he was under surveillance, he showed no sign of it. That was either innocence or exceptional operational security. "Commander," he said, formal, proper. "I have the interview results you requested. All 6 members of my training team confirmed the disposal of faulty demo charges. Their statements are consistent." Marcus took the tablet, scanned the reports. The statements were detailed, specific. Each soldier describing the training exercise, the malfunctioning detonators, the proper disposal procedure, everything by the book. Too perfect. The kind of perfect that came from rehearsal, from coordination, from multiple people telling the same lie. Thank you, Beta. This helps narrow the investigation. Any progress on identifying the attacker? We're following several leads. It's slow work, but we'll find them. Dorian nodded. His face showed concern. Appropriate emotion for a Beta worried about his Luna. But his eyes were calculating, measuring, reading Marcus for tells. Two predators circling, each pretending civility, each watching for weakness. The festival is in 2 days, Dorian said. Will Luna be well enough to attend? The healers are optimistic. She's stronger than she looks. Good. The pack needs to see her, needs to know she's recovering. Morale is suffering. I'm aware. If you need anything, any support, you know I'm here. I do. Thank you, Dorian. The Beta walked away. Confident stride, shoulders back, the bearing of a wolf who believed he was winning. Marcus watched him go, every instinct screaming danger, every tactical sensor firing warnings. But proof remained elusive, circumstantial, not enough to act on, not enough to risk being wrong. His comm unit buzzed, Helena's voice, urgent. Sir, you need to get to medical. Luna's awake, she remembers. Marcus was moving before conscious thought caught up, crossing the compound in long strides, warriors stepping aside, clearing his path, the Alpha on a mission. He reached the medical bay, pushed through the door. Sarah sat up in bed, Miriam beside her. Both wolves looked shaken, like they had seen something terrible and were still processing the implications. Sarah. He moved to her side, took her hand. What happened? Memory recovery, she said, voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. Miriam helped me remember the attack, all of it, including the voice that gave the order. Marcus felt his heart stop. Who? Sarah met his eyes, held them, and in that moment he saw the soldier she had been before the attack, the intelligence officer who dealt in secrets and hard truths. It was Dorian. I heard his voice. Right before Morgana touched me, he was there, watching, giving orders. The world tilted. Marcus felt 20 years of friendship collapse into ash, felt trust become betrayal, felt the final piece of the puzzle snap into place with brutal clarity. You're certain? I've worked in Psyops for a decade. Voice identification is basic tradecraft. It was him, Marcus. Dorian ordered the Soul Reaver to break me. Miriam spoke up. The entity confirmed something else. It was summoned. Someone called it forth and directed it to Sarah specifically. This wasn't random. It was targeted assassination of her wolf. Marcus processed this. Tactical mind sorting through implications. Dorian hadn't just betrayed the pack. He had committed an act of supernatural warfare, had weaponized an ancient entity against his own Luna. The question was why? What could possibly motivate a Beta to destroy his Alpha's mate? We need to bring him in, Helena said. She had entered quietly, listening. Now, before he realizes we know. Agreed, but not here. Too public. Too many variables. Marcus thought fast. Planning. Always planning. The festival. We use it as bait. Let Dorian think he's won. That Sarah is broken and vulnerable. See if he makes another move. And when he does, we take him. That's a risk, Miriam said. If the Soul Reaver is still active, if Dorian has control over it, he could attack during the ceremony in front of the entire pack. That's exactly what I'm counting on. He's been operating in shadows, hiding his moves. But if we force him into the open, make him commit publicly, he can't walk it back, can't explain it away. Sarah squeezed his hand. You want to use me as bait. Only if you're willing. I won't ask you to put yourself in danger again. But if we're going to stop Dorian and the Soul Reaver, we need him to expose himself. And the only thing that will draw him out is you. She was quiet for a long moment, processing, weighing options. Then she nodded. I'm in, but I want to be part of the planning, not just the bait. I want operational input. Marcus felt something loosen in his chest. This was his Sarah, not the broken victim, the soldier, the partner. Agreed. Helena, coordinate with security. I want this festival locked down tighter than a tactical operation. Sarah, you work with Miriam. Learn everything about the Soul Reaver, its capabilities, its weaknesses. If it manifests, we need to know how to kill it. And Dorian? Helena asked. We watch him, document every move, but we don't tip our hand. Not yet. Let him think he's safe. Let him get comfortable. The three wolves nodded, understanding the plan, the risk, the necessity. Marcus looked at Sarah, really looked. She was pale, wounded, scarred in ways that went beyond physical. But her eyes were clear, determined, the eyes of a wolf who had been knocked down and was choosing to get back up. 2 days, he said. We end this in 2 days. The next 48 hours moved with the peculiar momentum of a tactical operation, fast and slow simultaneously. Everything happening at once while time seemed to drag. Helena deployed her security teams, plainclothes scouts scattered through the festival grounds, sniper positions established on high points. Radio discipline maintained. Every wolf assigned a sector, every sector covered by overlapping fields of fire. It was overkill for a celebration. But this wasn't about celebrating. This was about catching a traitor. Roland worked the surveillance side. Dorian's movements tracked and logged, every conversation recorded, every meeting documented. The beta maintained his normal routine, training, planning, council meetings. If he suspected he was being watched, he showed no sign. That bothered Marcus more than anything. Dorian's composure, his control. Either he was innocent and had nothing to hide, or he was guilty and confident enough not to care. Sarah spent the time with Miriam, learning Soul Reaver lore, understanding the entity's nature. The ancient texts described it as neither alive nor dead, a consciousness trapped between states, feeding on broken bonds to sustain itself. But the texts also described weaknesses. The Soul Reaver could be disrupted by unified pack energy, by the combined will of wolves working in harmony. That's what the Luna's blessing ceremony was designed to do. Channel collective power through the Luna to the entire pack. If Sarah could perform the blessing while the Soul Reaver was present, she might be able to disrupt it long enough to trace it back to its source, to whoever was controlling it. It was a long shot, but it was the only shot they had. The morning of the festival, Marcus found Sarah in the training yard. She was alone, running through combat drills with a focus that bordered on obsessive. Her movements were slower than before the attack, compensating for injuries not fully healed, but her form was solid, practiced, the muscle memory of a soldier who had spent years perfecting their craft. He watched for a minute, then spoke. "You ready for tonight?" She didn't stop moving, transitioning from one drill to another. "As ready as I can be. Miriam says the blessing requires complete focus. Any hesitation and the power won't flow. And if the Soul Reaver attacks, then I deal with it, same as any other hostile. It's not like other hostiles. It gets inside your head, uses your fears against you." Now she stopped, turned to face him. Sweat sheened her skin. Her breath came hard, but her eyes were steady. "I know what it does, Marcus. I've felt it, lived through it, and I'm still here, still standing. That entity took my wolf, took part of my soul, but it didn't break me, and tonight I'm going to make sure it doesn't break anyone else." Pride swelled in his chest. This was his Luna, not defined by power or ceremony, but by choice, by the decision to stand up even when everything in you screamed to stay down. "I'll be there," he said, "right beside you, whatever happens." "I know, that's why I can do this, because I'm not alone." They stood together in the training yard, two soldiers preparing for battle, two mates bound by more than tradition, by choice, by partnership, by the kind of love that was earned through fire and blood, and refusing to quit when quitting was the easier path. Tonight would test everything, would expose the traitor, would bring the Soul Reaver into the open, would risk everything for the chance to end the threat permanently. But they would face it together, Alpha and Luna, soldier and soldier, partners in every way that mattered. The festival began at twilight. 200 wolves gathered in the great clearing, lights strung between trees, music floating on evening air, the scent of roasted meat and celebration. On the surface, it looked like any other pack gathering, joy and community and the bonds that held them together. Beneath the surface, tension sang like a wire pulled taut. Marcus stood at the edge of the ceremonial platform. His eyes swept the crowd, identifying faces, checking positions. His security team was invisible, blending into the celebration. But he knew where each one was, knew their fields of fire, knew that if things went wrong, they could lock down the clearing in seconds. Sarah appeared from the Luna's preparation chamber. She wore the ceremonial gown, white silk that caught moonlight and turned it into something ethereal. Her scars were visible, the marks of her survival on display for all to see. She had refused to cover them, refused to hide. The crowd went quiet, every eye on their Luna. Some faces showed sympathy, others respect. All showed concern. Their Luna had been attacked, broken, and now she stood before them, choosing to be vulnerable in the name of tradition and duty. She took her place on the platform. Marcus stood behind her, close enough to intervene, far enough to give her space. This was her moment, her ceremony. He was just support. Sarah raised her hands to the twin moons. Helios and Selene hung full and bright above them, the alignment that happened once each season. The moment when pack bonds could be renewed and strengthened. She began to channel, drawing power from the earth, from the moons, from the collective energy of 200 wolves focused on their Luna. The air shimmered, reality taking on that dreamlike quality that marked true supernatural power. Marcus felt it through the mate bond, a warmth spreading from Sarah outward, touching each wolf, connecting them, reminding them that they were more than individuals. They were pack, they were family. The blessing flowed like water, like light, like everything good and pure that wolves were capable of when they worked together. Then it stuttered. Marcus felt the disruption before he saw it. A cold spike driving through the warmth, a darkness seeping into the light. The temperature dropped 10 degrees in as many seconds. Sarah gasped, her concentration wavering. The blessing fractured, splintered, and where it broke, something else pushed through. The soul reaver manifested between heartbeats. One moment, empty air. The next, presence, physical and terrible. The entity took the form of a woman, beautiful and broken. Morgana's face twisted with 300 years of rage and sorrow. The crowd panicked, wolves scattering, parents grabbing pups, warriors reaching for weapons, chaos spreading like wildfire. But Marcus was already moving, his body between Sarah and the entity, his rifle up, silver rounds loaded, ready to fight, ready to die if that's what it took. Sarah's hand on his shoulder stopped him. Wait. Her voice was calm, focused, the voice of a soldier who had found their target. She wasn't looking at the entity. She was looking past it, into the crowd, her eyes tracking, searching, then locking onto a single face. Dorian stood at the edge of the clearing, his hand raised, fingers moving in patterns that looked like sign language, but weren't. Command gestures, controlling the entity like a puppet master pulling strings. And beside him, equally focused, equally intent, was Warrior Lieutenant Claire Redfield. 2 traitors, not one. Marcus's tactical mind snapped the pieces into place. Dorian as the strategist, Claire as the true believer, both working together, both compromised by ideology or ambition or whatever poison turned loyal wolves into enemies. Helena's voice crackled in his earpiece. I have the shot, both targets. Say the word. Marcus looked at Sarah. She was still channeling, still holding the blessing despite the Soul Reaver's interference. Sweat poured down her face, every muscle trembling with effort, but her eyes were clear, determined. She nodded once. Take them, Marcus commanded. 2 shots, almost simultaneous, tranquilizer darts, non-lethal but fast-acting. Dorian went down first, his hand still raised, still trying to control the entity. Claire followed a second later, collapsing mid-gesture. The Soul Reaver shrieked, a sound that bypassed ears and went straight to hindbrain terror. Its form flickered, destabilized without direction. Sarah seized the moment. She pushed, channeling everything she had, all the pain, all the rage, all the love for her pack and her mate and her stolen wolf. The blessing transformed. No longer gentle warmth, now pure force, a battering ram of unified pack will. The entity recoiled, weakened, its connection to the physical world fraying. And through the chaos, through the fear and violence and supernatural warfare, Marcus heard Sarah's voice, clear, certain, speaking directly to the ancient consciousness trapped in torment. Morgana, you were Luna once. You understand duty. You understand sacrifice. This isn't you. This is what was done to you, but you can choose. Right now, this moment, you can choose to stop. The Soul Reaver froze, its terrible beauty shifting, confusion replacing rage. Fight him, Sarah continued. Fight Aldrich's binding. You're not his weapon. You're Luna. You're one of us, and we don't abandon our own. For a heartbeat, nothing. Then the entity spoke, not the hateful whisper from the woods, but a voice, ancient, tired, so very tired. I can't. I've tried. For 300 years I've tried. The binding is too strong. I'm trapped. Then let us help. We're pack. We're Luna. Together we're stronger than any binding. Sarah turned to the crowd, to 200 wolves still frozen in fear and confusion. Our sister is trapped, tortured for 3 centuries, used as a weapon against everything she once protected. She needs us, all of us, every wolf here. We're going to break the binding. We're going to free her. Are you with me? Silence. Then one voice, Roland's weathered growl. "Luna Morgana deserves rest. We're with you." Another voice, Helena's crisp authority. "For our sister, we stand." More voices, building, growing, until 200 wolves spoke as one. "We stand." Sarah raised her hands again, but this time she wasn't channeling alone. Every wolf in the clearing joined her, pushing their energy, their will, their collective decision that enough was enough and their sister was coming home. The power that built was beyond anything Marcus had ever felt, beyond ceremony, beyond tradition. This was pack, pure and distilled, the fundamental truth that wolves were stronger together. The binding shattered like glass. Morgana's scream was joy and agony, and 300 years of pain released in a single moment. The Soul Reaver form dissolved, not destroyed, transformed, the darkness burning away, leaving only light, only peace. The entity collapsed into itself, compressing, condensing, until all that remained was a single point of brilliant luminescence. It flowed to Sarah, not attacking, not invading, coming home, seeking the Luna who had fought for her, who had seen past the monster to the victim beneath. The light touched Sarah's chest, right where Ember had been torn away, and something impossible happened. The bond restored, the connection remade, stronger than before, tempered by survival and choice and the kind of will that turned breaking points into building blocks. Ember returned, not hesitant, not tentative, exploding back into existence with a howl that shook the stars themselves. Silver and brilliant and absolutely untamed. Sarah shifted. Partial transformation. Her wolf rising to the surface, eyes blazing with power that was hers and Morgana's and every Luna who had ever fought darkness with nothing but stubborn refusal to break. She threw back her head and howled, and 200 wolves answered. The clearing erupted with sound, with joy, with the primal recognition that they had just witnessed something extraordinary. Marcus pulled Sarah close, feeling the bond snap back into perfect alignment, feeling his mate whole and strong and absolutely magnificent. "That," he whispered into her hair, "was the most terrifying and impressive thing I've ever seen." She laughed, the sound startled out of her. "We're not done yet. We still have 2 traitors to interrogate." Marcus looked across the clearing, at Dorian and Claire being secured by Helena's team, at 20 years of friendship ending in restraints and betrayal. "Yeah," he said, "we do. But that's tomorrow's problem. Tonight we celebrate. Our Luna just freed an ancient spirit and got her wolf back. That deserves recognition." Sarah looked up at him, her eyes bright with tears and triumph and exhaustion. "Tomorrow we end this. We find out why. We make them answer for everything." "Tomorrow," he agreed. "Tonight, we're just grateful you're here, whole, fighting, everything I knew you were." They stood together on the platform, surrounded by pack, surrounded by celebration. 2 soldiers who had walked through fire and come out tempered instead of broken. The Moongaze Festival continued into the night, but the real ceremony was already complete. Luna restored, bond renewed, and 2 traitors in custody waiting for justice. Tomorrow would bring answers. Tonight brought hope. And sometimes, hope was enough. The interrogation room was designed to break people. Marcus had spent enough years in military intelligence to understand the psychology. The single light overhead, the metal table bolted to concrete floor, the walls painted that particular shade of institutional gray that made time feel elastic, stretched, and meaningless. Dorian sat on one side of the table, hands cuffed, still wearing his festival clothes now rumpled and stained. He looked smaller somehow, diminished. 20 years of authority and command stripped away, leaving just a man who had made catastrophic choices. Marcus sat across from him. Helena stood in the corner, silent observer, witness to whatever came next. The silence stretched, an old interrogation technique. Let the suspects sit with their thoughts. Let guilt and fear do the heavy lifting before questions even started. Marcus counted to 60, then another 60, watching Dorian's face, looking for cracks in the facade. The beta met his eyes, steady, resigned, like a soldier who knew the mission had failed and was waiting for the after-action report. 20 years, Marcus said finally. His voice was quiet, conversational. 20 years we served together, fought together, bled together. I trusted you with my life, with my pack, with everything that mattered. Dorian said nothing, So I need you to help me understand. What happened? What poisoned that trust so badly that you tried to destroy my mate? It wasn't about destroying her. Dorian's voice was rough, raw. It was about saving us. Explain. The beta leaned back, metal chair creaking, his eyes distant, seeing something Marcus couldn't. 6 months ago, I was running night patrol. Eastern perimeter. Routine. I found something in the old archives. Hidden chamber. Must have been sealed for decades. Inside was a journal. Luna Morgana's personal writings. He paused, collecting thoughts or building narrative. Marcus couldn't tell which. She wrote about what Alpha Aldrich did to her, the experiments, the torture, how he bound her soul into that entity. But she also wrote about why. Aldrich saw something coming. A war. Pack against pack. Territory disputes escalating into total conflict. He believed the only way to survive was to develop weapons, psychological warfare. Break the enemy's lunas, and you break their cohesion. And you thought this was a good idea? Helena's voice, sharp with disbelief. I thought we needed to understand it. We're surrounded by hostile packs, border tensions increasing. The Ironwood pack alone has tripled their warrior count in the last year. War is coming, whether we want it or not. And when it does, we need every advantage. Marcus processed this. The tactical logic was sound. Twisted, but sound. Prepare for conflict by understanding all available weapons, including the horrific ones. So you summoned the Soul Reaver, studied it, learned to control it. Yes, the journal contained the summoning ritual. I performed it, bound the entity to my will, or thought I did. Bitter laugh, self-recrimination. Turns out 300 years of trapped consciousness makes for an unreliable weapon. It had its own agenda. Which was? Revenge. On all alphas, through their lunas. Morgana's pain became the entity's purpose. It wanted to replicate her suffering, make every alpha feel what Aldrich put her through. And you pointed it at Sarah. Dorian's composure cracked, just for a moment, guilt and shame flashing across his face before the professional mask reassembled. That was Claire. She convinced me that Sarah was the problem, that her healing abilities made the pack soft, dependent, that we needed a warrior Luna, someone who would support aggressive expansion rather than peaceful coexistence. Claire. Marcus kept his voice level. The warrior who wanted to be Luna herself. She believed in the old ways, strength through conquest, territory through blood. She saw Sarah as everything wrong with modern pack politics, compassion over ruthlessness, healing over warfare. So you two decided to break my mate, remove her wolf, leave her spiritually crippled, all because Claire wanted her position and you wanted a weapon. It wasn't supposed to be permanent. The journal said the soul severing could be reversed. We thought we could break Sarah temporarily, make her step down as Luna. Then Claire would take the position and we'd restore Sarah's wolf, give her back everything after proving our point. Helena moved forward, her hands flat on the table, her voice cold as Arctic ice. You tortured our Luna, used forbidden magic, deployed an entity that has killed dozens of wolves over 3 centuries, and you thought you could just reverse it? That there would be no consequences? I thought I could control it. Dorian's voice broke. I thought I was strong enough, smart enough, but the Soul Reaver had been waiting 300 years for someone stupid enough to summon it. It used me, used Claire. We were tools, same as Sarah was a target. Marcus stood, walked around the table, stood behind Dorian. The beta tensed, prey instinct recognizing predator proximity. You made a choice, Marcus said quietly. Maybe the entity influenced you. Maybe Claire pushed you. But at the end of the day, you chose to hurt Sarah. You chose to betray your alpha, your pack, your oath. Those choices are yours. Own them. I know. Barely a whisper. I know what I did, what I am, and I know what comes next. Do you? Pack law is clear. Betrayal of Luna is death. You'll execute me, probably publicly. Make an example. Marcus returned to his chair, sat, studied the wolf who had been his brother in everything but blood. That's what should happen, but my Luna has other ideas. Dorian's head came up, surprise breaking through resignation. Sarah wants to offer you a choice: death, quick and clean, honorable end to a dishonorable betrayal, or redemption. Redemption. You help us destroy what you created. The Soul Reaver is weakened but not gone. Morgana's consciousness was freed, but the binding still exists. The entity could reform, find a new host, start the cycle again. You know the magic, you know the rituals. You help us end this permanently, and maybe you earn a second chance. And if I refuse? Then Helena puts a silver bullet through your skull and we figure it out ourselves. Your choice, Beta. Die easy or live hard. Dorian was quiet for a long time. Internal war playing out behind tired eyes. Finally, he nodded. I'll help, whatever it takes. But Marcus. He met his Alpha's gaze. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't expect to walk away from this. I just want a chance to fix what I broke, that's all. Good enough. Helena, get him prepped for transport. We move out in 3 hours. The Gamma hauled Dorian to his feet, guided him toward the door. Marcus remained seated, suddenly exhausted, the weight of command pressing down like physical force. 20 years of friendship, gone, reduced to tactical asset and security threat. The cost of betrayal measured in broken bonds and lost trust. Helena returned. Claire's interrogation yielded similar information. She's more ideological. True believer in old pack hierarchy. Sees compassion as weakness. She'll fight the death sentence. Let her. Pack law is clear. She organized the attack, manipulated Dorian, tried to kill our Luna. That's 3 capital offenses. Execution is scheduled for dawn, public as required. Marcus nodded. And Dorian? His fate depends on the mission. If he helps us destroy the Soul Reaver permanently, you'll commute his sentence. If not, he joins Claire. That's the deal. Helena studied him, reading the lines that exhaustion and stress had carved into his face. You're doing the right thing, using him, but it's going to cost you. He was your friend. He stopped being my friend when he hurt Sarah. Now he's just an asset, a tool, same as any other piece of equipment. You don't believe that. No, but I'm an Alpha. I don't get the luxury of personal feelings. The pack needs the Soul Reaver destroyed. Dorian can help, so we use him. That's command. That's also why you're good at this. You make the hard calls. Marcus stood, joints protesting. Too many years, too many fights, too many impossible choices. Get the team ready, full combat load. We're going into the Silent Woods. And Helena, make sure everyone understands. This is a one-way trip unless we complete the objective. No rescue, no extraction if things go wrong. We succeed or we die trying. Understood, sir. I'll brief the team. She left. Marcus remained in the interrogation room, alone with fluorescent lights and the ghost of a friendship that should have lasted decades but barely survived years. Somewhere in the compound, Sarah was preparing. Somewhere, his warriors were checking weapons and accepting the possibility they might not come home. Somewhere, 200 wolves were trusting that their Alpha would end the threat and keep them safe. The weight of command, the burden of leadership, the price of being the one who made decisions while everyone else followed orders. Marcus closed his eyes, breathed deep, let himself feel the fear and doubt for just a moment. Then he pushed it down, locked it away, became the Alpha again. Time to finish this. The team assembled at midnight. 6 wolves, each one chosen for specific skills. Each one knowing the odds were bad and going anyway because that's what soldiers did. Marcus stood at the head, Alpha, Commander. The one who would lead them into darkness and hopefully bring them back to light. Sarah at his side. Luna, warrior. The one who had survived the Soul Reaver once and was willing to face it again because some threats couldn't be allowed to exist. Helena, Beta now, promoted in the aftermath of Dorian's arrest, chief of security and the finest tactical mind in the pack. She carried a custom rifle, silver rounds, blessed by pack elders. Every shot a prayer wrapped in ballistics. Roland, scout, tracker, the old wolf who had seen more wars than most wolves had seen winters. His job was navigation, getting them to the Soul Reaver's lair and back again, assuming there was a back again. Miriam, healer, historian, the one who understood the magic and the binding. Without her knowledge, they had no chance of destroying the entity permanently. She carried no weapons, just knowledge. Sometimes that was enough. And Dorian, hands still cuffed, 2 guards flanking, face set in grim determination. The traitor who had one chance at redemption and knew he probably wouldn't survive to see it. Marcus addressed them, voice carrying across the pre-dawn darkness. You know the mission. Infiltrate Silent Woods. Locate the Soul Reaver's physical anchor point. Destroy the binding using the ritual Miriam has prepared. Eliminate the entity permanently. He paused. Let them absorb the simplicity, the brutal straightforwardness. You also know the risks. The Silent Woods are supernatural territory. Reality doesn't work the same way inside. You'll face psychological attacks, manifestations of your fears. The entity will try to break you individually because it can't fight all of us at once. Another pause, harder now, personal. Some of us might not come back. That's the reality. But if we don't do this, the Soul Reaver will reform. We'll find new hosts. We'll continue killing Lunas until there's nothing left but broken packs and territorial collapse. This ends tonight, one way or another. He looked at each wolf, meeting eyes, seeing acceptance. Fear, yes, but also determination. The kind that made soldiers walk into impossible situations because someone had to, and it might as well be them. Final equipment check, then we move out. Helena, report. The new beta stepped forward, tablet in hand, professional efficiency. All personnel equipped with standard combat load, silver ammunition, blessed weapons, anti-psychic wards courtesy of Miriam, communication rigs on tactical frequency, backup emergency beacons if we need extraction. Extraction assumes someone's coming for us, Roland said. Dry humor. Gallows laugh. If we fail in there, ain't nobody gonna risk following. Then we don't fail. Sarah's voice, calm, certain. We've each survived things that should have killed us. This is just one more mission. We go in, we complete the objective, we come home. Marcus felt pride surge. This was his mate, his Luna, not broken by trauma, tempered by it. Mount up, we're moving. They loaded into 2 vehicles, tactical trucks designed for rough terrain. The drive to Silent Woods took 40 minutes. 40 minutes of silence broken only by the rumble of engines and the quiet breathing of wolves preparing for combat. The tree line loomed ahead. Even in darkness, the woods felt wrong. The trees too tall, too old, too aware. This was a place where the veil between natural and supernatural wore thin, where ancient magic pooled like stagnant water. The truck stopped at the perimeter. Everyone dismounted. Weapons check. Final radio test. The small rituals that gave soldiers comfort before walking into hell. Roland, you're on point. Get us to the center. Marcus's voice. Alpha Command. Helena, rear guard. Miriam and Dorian center. Sarah and I will flank. Standard combat spacing. Eyes open. Comms discipline. Let's move. They entered the Silent Woods in tactical formation. The change was immediate. The night sounds of the forest died. No birds, no insects, no wind. Just silence so complete it pressed against eardrums like pressure. The temperature dropped, not natural cold, the kind that came from absence, from void, from places where warmth went to die. They walked for 30 minutes, the forest around them shifting, trees that weren't in the same position twice, paths that curved back on themselves, space and direction becoming suggestions rather than rules. This is wrong, Helena muttered. We should have reached the center by now. We're walking in circles. The woods are defending themselves, Miriam said, or the entity is. It doesn't want us here. Too bad, Sarah's voice, hard edge. We're not leaving until the job's done. They pressed forward, and that's when the attacks began. Not physical, psychological. The Soul Reaver's specialty. Individual nightmares manifested, custom tailored to break each wolf. Helena saw her squad, the wolves she had commanded in previous wars, dead, torn apart, their blood on her hands, their voices accusing. You led us here. You gave the orders. We died because of you. She stumbled, weapon dropping, hands coming up to cover her ears, but the voices were internal, no blocking them out. Helena? Marcus's voice, cutting through. They're not real. Your squad died in combat, honorably. You didn't kill them, the enemy did. Stay with me. She gasped, nodded, picked up her weapon, pushed forward, but her hands shook. Roland saw his son, the boy who had followed his father into military service, who had died in an ambush that Roland survived. You taught me to fight, and I died for it. Was it worth it, Dad? Was your honor worth my life? The old scout dropped to his knees, 50 years of survivor's guilt crystallizing into single moment of devastating clarity. I'm sorry, God, I'm so sorry. Sarah moved to him, knelt beside him, her hand on his shoulder. Your son made his own choice. He chose service, chose sacrifice. That was his honor, not yours. He'd be proud you're still fighting. Stand up, Roland. Stand up and finish the mission for him. Roland's face twisted, grief and rage and love all warring. Then he stood, weapon ready, voice rough but functional. For him, let's end this. Miriam saw Luna Morgana, original form, before the torture, before the binding, beautiful and whole and everything a Luna should be. You could have saved me. You have the knowledge, the power, but you sided with Alphas. You let them do this to me. The Elder's face was calm, sad, but unshaken. I sided with healing. If saving you means destroying what you became, then I save you by ending your pain. That's what healers do. We end suffering. The manifestation flickered, unable to find purchase. Miriam's certainty was armor. Dorian saw himself, but different, successful, respected, standing beside Claire, leading a pack built on the old ways, strength and conquest and wolves who followed because fear was simpler than love. This could have been yours, should have been yours. You were too weak, too compromised by loyalty. Now you're nothing. The beta stared at his alternate self, at the life he could have had if he'd committed fully to betrayal. You're right. I was too weak. But not the way you think. I was too weak to resist temptation, too weak to see I was being used, too weak to protect the wolves who trusted me. He raised his cuffed hands, pointed at the manifestation. You're not my future, you're my warning, and I'm done listening. The alternate Dorian dissolved, unable to crack a man who had already accepted his failures. Marcus saw Sarah, dead, because he had failed again, failed to protect, failed to lead, failed in the one job that mattered most. You let me die, you're Alpha, you command everything, but you couldn't save me. He stood frozen, the nightmare too specific, too targeted, because it was his deepest fear, the one that kept him awake at night. That command and power meant nothing if he couldn't keep safe the one person who mattered most. Then Sarah's real voice, cutting through the illusion. Marcus, look at me. I'm here. I'm alive. Not because you protected me, because we're partners. I don't need you to save me. I need you to trust me. He turned, saw her, real and solid and absolutely magnificent. The manifestation shattered. Trust you, right, I can do that. Good, now let's kill this thing. They pushed deeper into the woods, past the psychological attacks, past the manifestations, to the center where reality was thinnest and the Soul Reaver's power was strongest. The clearing opened before them, ancient stones arranged in a circle, druidic, older than pack history, older than wolf memory. This was where Alpha Aldrich had performed the binding, where Morgana's soul had been ripped from her body and trapped in shadow. In the center of the stones, suspended in air, was a crystal, dark, pulsing, the physical anchor for the Soul Reaver's existence. Destroy it, and the binding would break. The entity would cease to exist. But guarding it were 12 figures, corrupted Lunas, wolves who had been broken by the Soul Reaver and bound to its service. They stood motionless, waiting, empty eyes tracking the approaching team. 12 hostiles, Helena said, voice clipped, professional. We're outnumbered 2 to 1. They're victims, Sarah said, not enemies. We minimize casualties. Agreed. Marcus moved to the front. Helena, trank rounds when possible. Roland, flank and disorient. Sarah, Miriam, get to that crystal. Dorian, you're with them. You know the ritual. Make it count. What about you? Sarah asked. I'll handle the welcoming committee. The corrupted Lunas moved, not with coordination, not with tactics, just mindless aggression. Bodies animated by entity's will, but devoid of actual intelligence. The fight was brutal, efficient, military precision against supernatural corruption. Helena fired. Tranquilizer darts finding targets. 2 Lunas dropped, 3, 4. But the ammunition was limited. Eventually she switched to lethal rounds. Silver tearing through corrupted flesh. Mercy killing wolves already lost. Roland moved like smoke. Old wolf using terrain and experience. Flashbangs, disorientation, creating chaos in enemy ranks, making them easier targets for Helena's rifle. Marcus engaged 3 at once. Close quarters combat. His blade was silver, blessed, every cut a prayer, every strike an apology to wolves who deserved better than being weapons. He moved with the efficiency of 25 years of warfare, no wasted motion, no hesitation, just violence applied with surgical precision. Sarah and Miriam reached the crystal, Dorian between them. The beta's hands were uncuffed now, needed for the ritual. But 2 of Roland's scouts had weapons trained on him, insurance against betrayal. The ritual requires Luna power, Miriam said. Sarah channels, I guide. Dorian provides the counter-incantation to break Aldrich's original binding. How long? Sarah asked. 5 minutes, maybe less if the entity doesn't resist. It's going to resist. As if summoned by the words, the Soul Reaver manifested, full physical form, Morgana's twisted beauty, 300 years of rage given shape and substance. You think you can destroy me? I am eternal. I am pain itself. I will outlast you all. Sarah faced the entity. No fear, no hesitation, just a soldier looking at a target. You're not eternal. You're a victim who became a predator, but that ends now. We're breaking the binding. We're setting you free. Free, I am free. This is my freedom, my purpose, to make them all suffer as I suffered. That's not freedom. That's just perpetuating your own torture. Let go, Morgana. Let yourself rest. The entity lunged, not at Sarah, at Dorian, the one who had summoned it, the one who had tried to control it, the weak link. Dorian saw it coming. Didn't run, didn't dodge, just closed his eyes and began chanting. Words in ancient language. The counterbinding, the ritual to break what Aldrich had created. The Soul Reaver's claws raked across his chest. Deep, mortal, blood spraying. But Dorian kept chanting, even as he fell, even as life poured out of him. He finished the incantation. The binding fractured. Sarah felt it through her Luna sense, the magical structure holding the entity together, cracking, breaking, coming apart like rotted rope under strain. She channeled everything she had, every drop of power, every ounce of will, not attacking the entity, supporting it, offering it the one thing it had never had, a choice. You can let go, she whispered. You can stop. The pack is here. We're holding space for you. You don't have to be a weapon anymore. You can just be Luna. You can come home. For a moment, nothing. Then the entity stopped fighting, stopped raging. Morgana's face, twisted by 3 centuries of torment, softened, clarity returning. Home, I remember home. Then come back to it. We're your sisters, your family. We've got you. The Soul Reaver collapsed inward, not destroyed, transformed, the darkness burning away, the rage dissipating, leaving only the ghost of what had been. Who had been? Luna Morgana, original, whole, free. She looked at Sarah, really looked, and in her eyes was gratitude so profound it transcended words. Thank you, for remembering I was human, for giving me the choice. Then she faded, not into darkness, into light, released from torment, finally at peace. The crystal shattered, the binding broke completely, the corrupted Lunas collapsed. Some dead, some merely unconscious, but all freed from the entity's control. Sarah dropped to her knees beside Dorian. The beta was dying, no question. The wounds were too severe, but he was smiling, just slightly. Did it work? His voice was barely audible. It worked. The Soul Reaver is gone. Morgana is free. You did it. Good. That's good. He coughed, blood on his lips. Tell Marcus. Tell him I'm sorry. For all of it. Tell him yourself. But she knew he wouldn't. The light was already fading from his eyes. Dorian died in the Silent Woods. Not as a traitor. As a soldier who made terrible choices but found redemption in the end. It wasn't forgiveness, wasn't absolution. But it was something, a final act that mattered. Marcus knelt on Dorian's other side, his hand on the beta's shoulder. 20 years of friendship reduced to this moment, this ending. You helped us win. That counts. Rest easy, brother. Dorian's eyes closed. His breathing stopped. The wolf who had been Marcus's second in command, his friend, his betrayer, gone. They stood in the clearing, 6 wolves who entered, 5 who would leave. The cost of victory measured in blood and broken trust. We need to move, Helena said. The woods are unstable. The binding's destruction affected the whole area. She was right. The trees were shaking, the ground trembling. The supernatural structure that had held the Silent Woods together was collapsing. They had maybe 10 minutes before everything came apart. Grab the survivors, Marcus ordered. We're not leaving anyone behind. They hauled the unconscious corrupted Lunas, dead weight across shoulders, moving as fast as terrain and burden allowed, racing against collapse. The forest screamed, trees falling, reality tearing, the price of destroying something that had existed for 300 years. They burst from the tree line just as the Silent Woods imploded behind them, the entire forest folding in on itself, compressing, erasing, until nothing remained but empty ground and the memory of darkness. They made it, barely, but they made it. Marcus counted heads, 5 of his team, 9 rescued Lunas, acceptable casualties, successful mission. But as he looked at the empty space where Dorian's body remained, buried under the collapsed forest, he felt the weight of command settle heavier than ever. This was what leadership cost. What command demanded. You made the hard calls, you used every asset, you completed the mission. And you lived with the consequences. The sun rose over Pack Ashwood compound. Marcus stood on the Alpha's balcony, watching dawn paint the sky in shades of orange and gold. Behind him, the pack was stirring. Morning routines beginning, warriors heading to training, pups heading to lessons, the complex machinery of pack life grinding forward. Sarah joined him, 2 cups of coffee in her hands. She offered one. He took it. They stood together in comfortable silence. "The council wants to schedule Dorian's memorial," she said finally. "Military honors, despite everything. He earned them at the end." "You think so?" Marcus considered, really thought about it. The betrayal, the redemption, the complicated truth that people could be both terrible and heroic depending on which moment you examined. "I think he made choices that hurt us, but his final choice saved us. That has to count for something." Sarah nodded. "The rescued Lunas are recovering. Miriam says most of them will heal, physically at least. The psychological damage will take longer. We'll help them. It's what Pack does." Helena's settling into the beta role. She's good at it. "She is. Better than Dorian in some ways, more honest." "That's a low bar." Marcus smiled. Actually smiled. First time in days. "Fair point." They drank coffee, watched the sunrise. 2 soldiers who had walked through darkness and made it back to light. "The Pack Alliance sent another message," Sarah said. 15 other packs have reported Soul Reaver incidents. They want us to lead the task force, help them deal with the corrupted Lunas, hunt down any remaining entity fragments. "What did you tell them?" "That I'd consult with my Alpha, that this was a decision we'd make together." Marcus looked at her, really looked. His Luna, his partner, the wolf who had survived being broken and come back stronger. "What do you want to do?" "I want to help. These are Lunas who need healing. That's what I do. But it's a big commitment. Months of travel. Dangerous work. I won't do it unless you're with me." "Then I'm with you. We'll build a team, train specialists, turn this into a permanent unit. Operation Luna becomes ongoing mission." "Partners?" "Partners, always." They sealed it with a kiss. Not passionate, just solid, real, the kind that came from shared survival and choosing each other every day. Behind them, the compound came fully alive. 200 wolves starting their day, trusting their Alpha and Luna to keep them safe, to make the hard choices, to lead them through whatever came next. Marcus and Sarah would do exactly that, together, as soldiers, as mates, as partners in every way that mattered. The sacred grotto at sunset was different now. Sarah stood at the water's edge, watching moonlight dance on ripples, the place where she had been vulnerable, where Marcus had worshipped her scars and reminded her that survival was its own kind of strength. She wore simple clothes, not ceremonial robes, just comfort. She didn't need ritual anymore, didn't need tradition to tell her who she was. Ember stirred inside her, not separate, not distant, fully integrated, the wolf bond stronger than ever, tempered by trauma and choice and the refusal to stay broken. Marcus entered the grotto. He carried no weapons, no Alpha authority, just himself, the man beneath the rank. "Thought I'd find you here," he said. Seemed appropriate, coming full circle. He joined her at the water's edge, their reflections side by side. 2 wolves who had faced impossible odds and won. "I have something for you," he said. He pulled a small box from his pocket, opened it. Inside was a silver medallion, engraved with pack symbols and new ones, symbols that represented survival, healing, partnership. It's a Luna's star, traditionally given to Lunas who perform extraordinary service. You freed an ancient spirit, saved your pack, survived what should have killed you. That deserves recognition. Sarah took the medallion. It was heavy, real, the weight of accomplishment and acknowledgement. "Thank you, but you know this isn't why I did it." "I know. You did it because someone had to. Because wolves were suffering and you could help. That's who you are. That's why you're my Luna. Not because of ceremony or tradition, because you choose to stand when standing is hard." She attached the medallion to a chain, wore it around her neck. It settled against her chest, right over her heart, right over her scars. "We're heading out in 3 days. First mission with the task force. Ironwood Pack has requested assistance. Their Luna is critical. Same symptoms as what I experienced. Then we save her, same as we'd want someone to save us. It's going to be dangerous. These corrupted entities aren't gone, just scattered. We'll be hunting shadows across the continent." Marcus took her hands, held them firmly, his eyes meeting hers with absolute certainty. "I've been hunting shadows my whole career. The only difference now is I have the right partner. We'll face this the same way we faced everything else. Together, with our eyes open and our backs covered." Sarah pulled him close, rested her head against his chest, listened to his heartbeat, strong, steady, the rhythm that had anchored her when everything else was falling apart. "Together," she agreed. "That's how we do this, how we've always done this." They stood in the grotto, in the place where vulnerability had become strength, where broken pieces had been carefully collected and reassembled into something more beautiful than the original. The water glowed with bioluminescent algae. The twin moons rose overhead, Helios and Selene watching their children, blessing them with light and the promise of tomorrow. Marcus and Sarah didn't need ceremony now, didn't need ritual words or sacred traditions. They just needed each other. Two soldiers, two wolves, two souls who had chosen partnership over everything else. They entered the water together, not for bonding ceremony, not for tradition, just for themselves, for the quiet intimacy of shared space and mutual trust. In the morning, they would return to being Alpha and Luna, would lead the task force, would hunt corrupted entities across the continent, would face danger and darkness and all the things that threatened pack stability. But tonight, they were just Marcus and Sarah, just two wolves who had survived hell and chosen to keep fighting. Not because they had to, because they wanted to, because the mission mattered, because their people mattered. Because love, real love, the kind built on respect and partnership and choosing each other every damn day, was worth fighting for. The water was warm. The night was peaceful. And somewhere in the compound, 200 wolves slept safely, trusting their leaders, believing in tomorrow. That trust was sacred. That belief was earned. Marcus and Sarah would honor it, would protect it, would lead their pack and their task force with everything they had. Together, always together. The twin moons reached zenith. Their light wove through the grotto, painting everything in silver and gold, the colors of survival, of healing, of bonds that bent but never broke. And in that light, two wolves renewed their commitment, not through ceremony, not through tradition, but through choice. Every day, every mission, every moment, choosing each other, choosing the fight, choosing to stand when standing was hard, and run when running was smart, and lead when leadership was the only option left. Operation Luna was complete. The next mission was already beginning. But tonight, there was just peace. Just two soldiers taking a moment before the next battle. Just partnership and love, and the quiet certainty that whatever came next, they would face it the same way they faced everything. Together. Epilogue. 3 months later, the task force had grown. 15 specialists, each one carefully selected, each one trained in dealing with corrupted entities. They operated out of a mobile command center, moving from pack to pack, hunting shadows, saving Lunas. Marcus stood in the command tent, studying maps, planning operations, doing what he did best, leading, strategizing, turning chaos into order through sheer force of will and tactical genius. Sarah was in the medical tent, working with the latest rescued Luna, a young wolf from the Redwood Pack, barely 20. Her wolf severed just like Sarah's had been, but now there was hope. Now there was protocol. Now there was a Luna who understood exactly what she was going through and knew how to help. Helena managed security. Roland trained scouts. Miriam provided historical knowledge and healing expertise. The team worked like a machine, efficient, effective, professional. They had saved 8 Lunas in 3 months, lost 2. The math was brutal, but better than before. Before, every corrupted Luna died. Now, most survived. That was progress. Hard won and blood bought, but progress nonetheless. Marcus felt Sarah approach before he saw her. The mate bond had evolved into something extraordinary, not just connection, true partnership. He could feel her moods, her thoughts, her presence in ways that went beyond physical proximity. "Redwood Luna is responding to treatment," she said. "She'll recover. Might take months, but she'll get her wolf back." "Good work." "Team effort, Miriam's rituals, your security protocols, Helena's tactical support. We all did this. That's what makes us effective. No heroes, just professionals doing the job." Sarah smiled, leaned against him. They stood together looking at maps that showed their next target. Coastal Pack. 3 corrupted Lunas, heavy entity presence. It would be their most dangerous mission yet. "You ready?" he asked. "Always. You?" "With you? Absolutely." They would deploy at dawn, would face new dangers, new challenges. the kind that got soldiers killed if they weren't careful, if they weren't good. But Marcus and Sarah were good, were careful, were professionals who had survived worse and came out stronger. Operation Luna continued. The mission evolved, but the core remained the same. Save the broken, hunt the darkness, protect the innocent, and do it together. Alpha and Luna, commander and captain, partners in every way that mattered. The war against corrupted entities would continue for years, would claim lives, would test them in ways they couldn't imagine. But they would face it, would fight it, would win one battle at a time. Because that's what soldiers did, that's what leaders did, that's what wolves who refused to quit did. They stood, they fought, they survived. Together, always together. The end.